Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. We realize there are so many different things, social media, YouTube videos that you could be watching, but you chose us and we are so grateful for that. So hopefully, actually, I know, um, hopefully we'll give you some information that you can apply in your own yard so that so you can beautify and make your yard a little more tranquil and peaceful and have the added benefit of helping wildlife. But before I get started, let's go ahead and share a message from Tarrant Regional Water District, but I will be right back as soon as it is over. So stay tuned. This presentation is supported by our regional water supplier, Tarrant Regional Water District. TRWD maintains 4 area lakes and pipelines needed to provide surface water to local water treatment plants so they can clean it to meet drinking water standards for our communities. They also work with many cities in Tarrant County, such as Fort Worth, Arlington, and Mansfield, to provide water conservation programs for the community. Conservation is an important water supply strategy to help meet the needs of a growing population. There are currently 2.3 million people in Tarrant County, and this is expected to double over the next 50 years. This is why TRWD supports many programs that help save water through outdoor watering and gardening education. At SaveTarrantWater.com, you can sign up for free weekly watering advice custom to your location. If you are a resident of Tarrant County, you can sign up for a free sprinkler system checkup where a licensed irrigator comes to your home and provides a comprehensive evaluation of your system with recommendations to reduce water waste. There is also an event calendar where you can find important information about future classes and workshops. TRWD also partners with organizations like Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service and the Tarrant County Master Gardeners to provide educational programs just like this one. Be sure to check out SaveTarrantWater.com and sign up for their free services. Okay, thank you for your patience. Now we're going to get into the program. And at the very end, please, if you have any questions, let us know, put it in the chat, and we will read each one and answer all of your questions. So the benefits of a water garden, let's go into that first. And let me just start off by saying that back in the day when I lived in another city, I actually had a koi pond. It's not this pond, this was a stock image, but I had a beautiful koi pond and it was beautiful. I love the trickling sounds. It just added so much to my yard. It also somewhat depleted the traffic noise, and I just loved it so much. I would see hummingbirds come by, dragonflies, you name it, pollinators, all kinds of things would come and visit. Really, really enjoyed it. But what I didn't appreciate was the maintenance because I had to put on some waders, get in the water occasionally, pull out some plants, clean the muck out from the bottom and things like that. So although I really enjoyed it, I didn't want to bring that to my new home because as I get older, I kind of want things to be more low maintenance. So that's why I started getting into container water gardens. And it's not super costly. It's easy to get into. So hopefully you'll give it a try. So let's talk about the benefits here. Provide water to wildlife, like I said earlier, birds, pollinators, you name it. Now, if you're wanting to solely provide water for pollinators, it would be nice to have a little shallow container with maybe some flagstones at the bottom so that they don't accidentally drown or they can get back out of the water if needed. I do have some shallow saucers that I keep outside too, just for that purpose. But there's just something about having a beautiful glazed pot out there with some aquatic plants in it. I'll show you a lot of examples too to get you inspired. Add additional plant varieties to your garden. I don't know about you, but I know that a lot of master gardeners, we have owned pretty much every plant available out there. Kind of embarrassing, but I guess it is our hobby. We just love it. And sometimes you kind of run out of plants. And now you can go out and buy some aquatic plants, propagate them, divide them, maybe share them with friends, and increase your plant collection. Very soothing, especially if you add a fountain. You don't have to, especially if you have a small basin, but you can get some smaller ones to add that extra benefit. Mosquito control. I love this feature. You guys have probably heard about those mosquito bucket of dooms. I think that's what they're called, bucket of dooms. So what people are doing is getting these industrial, ugly plastic buckets, the ones like from Home Depot, Lowe's, any industrial place, Walmart, um, and they're filling it with some water and usually some grass debris or something like that, just to make it a little more mucky. And they're adding Bacillus thuringiensis to it to basically stop the mosquito life cycle. So the mosquito goes into the water, it deposits the eggs. Well, the mosquito larva cannot survive that BT. So it halts the life cycle of mosquitoes. So we'll talk about that too. I think having one of these water features, a little water container pond garden, whatever you want to call it, so much more attractive than having a plastic industrial bucket in the yard. So I'll show you how to do it. So no pond, no problem. I'll also talk about the specific plants at the very end so that you'll know which ones to add and which ones to avoid. There are some problematic and invasive plants that are unfortunately for sale out there. So choose the right location. I know this seems very ABC, but I've learned a lot of lessons throughout the years on where not to place my container pond. Full sun in North Texas can get way too hot. I mean, just put a bucket out there in the middle of your patio or wherever you have full sun. And in the middle of the day, go out there and just stick your finger in that pot of water. It'll feel like bath water. And even some people, you've heard them say their huge swimming pools are just too hot. It feels like bath water. So they actually get coolers installed. I'm not one of those people. I actually kind of like it warm, but keep that in mind. You don't want to cook your plants. A small container is going to get hotter, whereas a larger one, it can hold more water and it's not going to heat up as quickly. So bigger really is better, but we'll get into that later. Small dark colored pots, they will get really hot. So keep that in mind with black pots, dark. Partially shaded or filtered light really is best. So on this patio example here, I'm kind of looking around where the shady areas might be. And of course, during the day that changes. So go out there, or if you have a Ring camera, I love using my Ring camera because I'm not always home, but I like to look at different areas of my yard through the Ring camera to see, oh, is it actually full sun? Is there actually sun on that flower bed or that pot at 2 p.m. versus 4 p.m., 6 p.m.? And it's kind of a cheat sheet. It kind of tells you exactly how many hours you get. So if you decide to put out a vegetable garden or something like that, and you have a Ring camera, use that to your advantage. But in this situation here, you do want to choose a partially shaded or filtered light area if you can. Even a shady area would be okay, but you also give up blooms if you decide to incorporate some blooming plants. But that's up to you. We'll talk more about that. The full sun. So I'm talking about lilies, lotus plants. Those need a lot of sun, kind of like a lot of the blooming plants that we put in our flower beds. Full sun plus excess nutrients, that equals kind of a disaster. Also, algae issues. I don't know if you've ever had a pond or aquarium. You probably come across this issue at one time or another, but it's basically just too many nutrients with the warmth of the sun and the sunlight. It's usually caused by too much nitrogen and phosphorus in the water. So especially if you're going to fertilize these aquatic plants, keep all of that in mind. You don't want a disaster to happen. There are algae treatment solutions out there that you can readily buy, but we don't want to have to do that. We want to balance it so that your water chemistry is always perfect and we don't have any spikes of this or spikes of that. We want to have a nice balanced system in there. Some algae is beneficial. Child safety, I have to mention this because I, for a long time, had a pot that was about 50, 60 gallons. And, I don't have any small children coming around or anything, especially during that time, but, they could easily get curious and dunk their heads in. and maybe fall in. So even though it's not a swimming pool or anything like that, you do have to think about child safety. If you have little bitty kids, you may not want to do anything larger than a few gallons or something super shallow. Consider leaf litter. If you were to put that pot, like say under that tree in this picture, at certain times of the year, it's going to get really messy. You're going to have a lot of leaf debris that you're going to have to, siphon out. So think about that too. It can be beneficial to be under a tree because of the shade and cooler temperatures, but you also might have some mess. So keep all of that in mind. You can put nets over the tops of your containers to keep all of that out. So choose the right container. It must be frost-free, frost-proof, weather-resistant. A lot of these pots that we can buy now, these ceramic glazed or unglazed pots, they'll have a sticker on them and it'll say that they're frost-proof, freeze-resistant, things like that. What they're saying is that those pots will not, or most likely, there's never a guarantee in life, but they won't crack. Think about when you put a bottle of water in the freezer. What happens when it freezes? Okay, I'm obviously talking about during the winter months because this will be out all year. The ice expands, right? The water expands and it's going to either bust that plastic bottle or break a glass. Hopefully it's not glass, but keep that in mind. It expands when it freezes. And you could have a layer of ice at the very top of your container pond. So keep that in mind. So this little pot here at the very bottom, that's just cheap old thin plastic. I really wouldn't recommend something like that unless you want it to crack or cause issues. It's not durable is what I'm saying. Bigger definitely is better. It's not going to be as hot. You can put more plants in it, etc. But you can have a tiny little one to experiment with. Container shape, wide is much better than a taller, wide and shallow is better than something like this. With something like this, it's deep and you can only put maybe one or two plants in each one, right? Because the width is just too small. Whereas let's say this is the perfect pot for you, you can maybe put some tall plants in the back and a couple of little short ones up front. You have more plant variety space to create a nice arrangement. So I always go for pots like this versus pots like this. Although in a pot like this that's kind of tall and narrow, you could put some water lilies or some lotuses in them and just maybe do, one specimen. That's up to you. If there's a drainage hole, it's okay. You can plug it. I'll show you how to do that. So here's a container that you could use. I personally think it's kind of ugly, but if that's all you have and you want to test this out, you're welcome to do that. But what's great about a container like this is it's got this little plug at the bottom that you can undo and allow some of the dirty water to come out. If you do later on decide to put in maybe some mosquito fish, that's up to you, but we'll talk about that later, the do's and don'ts. I really don't recommend putting fish in these, but some people want to for additional mosquito control, but this allows you to do easier water changes. A lot of the metal troughs that you buy also have this built-in drainage hole. But again, I don't know about you, but I don't really want this in the middle of my yard, but it is an option if you have one. Here's a trough, stock tanks. They make excellent little container pond or big container ponds, I should say. They come in all different sizes, shapes. I've seen all types lately. Here are some more examples, but remember, if it's a glazed pot like this that's meant for flowers, plants, make sure that it is frost-free, weather-resistant, all of that, okay? Because I hate for you in the middle of winter, because guys, we have that really harsh 1 week worth of winter here in Texas, don't we? Where it kills off anything that's tropical or not zone 8. That does come. It seems like we have a true winter about once 1 week out of the year. So you don't want to have the added task of having to bring it in and all of that. At least I don't. So make sure that's the situation. Or if it's a pot that you just don't really care much about and want to test it out, you can do what you'd like. So let's say that you have a drainage hole. I recommend using something like this. Not, it doesn't have to be this brand, but it needs to be an all-purpose putty to plug the hole. Use a very generous amount and don't just put it right into the hole. Okay. You want to extend it out a little bit to ensure you have really good coverage and a watertight plug. Okay. Just kind of, it kind of looks like chewing gum. So once you put it on there, just pack it in really tight, plug the hole a little beyond, and just kind of mound it up a little bit on the top and on the bottom. Then let it cure according to the instructions. But make sure the back of the brand that you decide to buy says, you know, you can use it for areas that are going to have water around. Okay, not necessarily like water resistant, but you know, it's not going to be damaged by water. Hope that makes sense. So many years ago, this was probably closer to 10 years now, I was at this landscape company and they had these pots. And I saw this pot, and you can see here it's kind of hourglass shaped, kind of. It was beautiful. It's beautiful. It's big, holds about, like I said, 50, 60-ish gallons of water. And I just had to have it. So brought it home. And here on the right-hand side, you see how I cleaned it out and I plugged the hole with that putty. But you know, it's not a perfect round shape. I actually, you know, extended it beyond to make sure it was going to be watertight. And it also looks like that on the bottom. So I let that dry for a couple of days. Well, let me go back to the screen. Notice these pots like this, they're not glazed. They're kind of raw on the inside a lot of times. Glazed, you know, it has that slick coating on it that keeps it watertight. But in this situation, it's very, very porous. So I had to go through the added step of sealing it. So you can go out there and get containers that don't need all of this, but this was the pot that I really wanted. It was beautiful. So this is what I decided to do. These particular brands here are fish safe. Okay, they don't put toxins into the water, and you can use them for underwater applications. Again, cement, clay, terracotta, they're very porous. So if you fill those, you're going to have a lot of water leaching out. So make sure you do this, and make sure the pot is bone dry before you decide to put this epoxy on it. Follow the label's instructions because they're all a little bit different. And again, let me repeat, caution, some waterproofing sealers are toxic to fish if you intend to put some mosquito fish in there. So do your research. But I do know that these three here are safe. The dry lock one, and I'm not pushing any particular brand, but even on the website, they have a list like 10 interesting things to do with dry lock. And these other ones even specifically mention pond. So they are fish safe, non-toxic. Then you are going to level your container. I know this seems like no big deal, but I've learned my lesson so many times by getting all excited and wanting to fill my container pond. And I start to fill it, right? And I come back, I look at it, it's almost full. On the left side, there's a 1-inch gap, 1-inch space where there's not enough water. But on the right-hand side of my container, it's overflowing with water. So I didn't level my container. And that drives me crazy if you walk by and see that it's so unleveled. So make sure you level your container before you fill it all the way. So there's the container that I sealed and leveled. As you can see, the inside looks completely different. It is leveled. I had to use some plastic shims. I recommend plastic versus the wooden ones because remember, you're going to have some water in this. And occasionally I did a water change. So water gets kind of on it you know, slips down underneath the unit and everything. You don't want that to decay over time by using wood. So I used plastic shims. You can use flagstone, anything that will help level. So here is a stock image that I just wanted to show you, just to show you some different plants that people have used. That is creeping Jenny. You can actually use that as a spiller over the edges, kind of like a ground cover that comes down. We'll talk more about the plants later, but the important thing that I wanted to mention here is let the water settle for a day before adding plants, because as some of you know who've had aquariums and ponds, our city water has a lot of chlorine in it. So we can drink that, but it's not great for plants. They don't love it. You know, think about when you water your plants with a hose versus when rain comes. They just love rain so much better, right? So let the water settle for a day and let some of that chlorine dissipate. Um, if you give it about 24 hours, a lot of that chlorine will go away on its own. Do you want a fountain? I'm a big proponent of fountains because of the added noise. We'll talk about pumps and things like that that you can add. It's not necessary, but it is beneficial for the noise. It just adds, I don't know, just a different element to your yard. And it does help deter mosquitoes. You know, mosquitoes like stagnant water. So if you want to kind of shoo them away or prevent them from coming around, you may want a pump to continuously run. It also oxygenates the water, but you do have to have an electrical outlet nearby, or you can get a solar fountain. Those are now available, and you can buy those. I've seen them all over online, and they're not very expensive. So you can do that too. You can even add one to your bird bath to keep the water oxygenated and moving. It keeps it fresher for longer. So you can do that as well. Use bricks or stones to raise the height of plants and to secure the filter and fountain. Here are examples of that. So this person is using this metal container, and see how they have these bricks in here so that they can elevate their potted plants. Some pots need to be down and submerged completely underwater, and some need to be more on the surface, kind of like a bog plant. We'll talk about those later. In this situation here, they actually have a pump on the bottom, and then a fountain attachment on top. And it likely has like a bell fountain or umbrella look to it. You can buy different attachments to get a little spray motion or a bell, anything. And they are also holding that pump in between two bricks to keep it in one place. And then here's another example. They're using multiple bricks to elevate these plants. Another tip is if you have a really large container like the one that I showed you that I had that was 50, 60 gallons. Actually, I do still have that one. I don't know why I keep saying was. It allowed me to put, you can't see it either, a dark egg crate or milk crate, whatever, I guess it's a milk crate. Just put it in upside down and use it as a table to elevate your plants, the ones that you need elevated. And I'm telling you, you don't see it because when you look in there, it's kind of, you know, a little bit darker in there, and plants will cover it up over time. It also works great if you do put mosquito fish into your container. They have kind of a place to go hide and kind of relax, I guess, under the shade. Optional, the water fountains, aerators, and filters. I do recommend having these, but like I said, you can just have a basin or container just filled with water. But we'll talk about BT so you won't have mosquito issues. Here is just a bubbler that a lot of people use in fish tanks that you can use. Here's a filtration kit. It's a small filter kit that comes with a fountain and the pump. A lot of times they're sold separately, so keep that in mind when you start researching online. This is just a pump, okay? So it circulates the water, pushes it through there. There's a little fan motor. It pushes the water up. Well, if you're only using this pump, it will circulate the water, but there's no way for this short nub to push or lift your water up on top of the surface so you can enjoy that trickle. So you do have to buy a fountain attachment or get a complete fountain kit. Okay, there's different wording when you look online, so make sure you research that. And here's just a little solar powered system for bird baths and things like that. That's another option. So make sure it states that it's outdoor safe, because a lot of these products are also made for aquariums inside your house, but obviously outdoor conditions are different. So make sure it says outdoor use appropriate. How many GPH? That means gallons per hour. That's all that means. basically, if you're wanting to, the rule of thumb is that you want your water circulated through a pump. You want it to circulate one time every 2 hours. Okay, so it's simple math there. The lift, how much lift, what they mean by that is how much will that pump push the water up? How many feet or inches? How far will it push up against gravity to give you the water, the amount of water that you desire? If you have a really weak pump, it might just barely push the water up. It may not have any lift at all. But if you go out and get, like, let's say a pool pump, which you would never do, or a jacuzzi pump, obviously, if you only have like a 5 gallon container that you're starting out with, it's going to shoot water out of there and probably to your next door neighbor. It's way too strong. So make sure you read reviews, make sure you read the specs, and it specifically tells you, oh, this is for aquariums or ponds, 50 gallons or less, or 25 gallons or less. You know, you want something like that for a small container water garden. You don't want to get a pump that says it's listed for 2,000 gallon pond, because again, your water is going to spew everywhere. So do a little bit of research on this if you decide to get one. And also, we kind of forget about this one, but cord length. Make sure you read the specs on that. You don't want to use 2 or 3 extension cords from your home trying to get this pump out in the middle of your yard to work. So think about the cord length as well, because some of these come with like a 5 or 6 foot cord. That's just not enough. Do you want to add fish? I really don't recommend it because here in North Texas, it just gets too hot. And it really breaks my heart to see people with even ponds that are in full sun without any relief, you know, for their poor koi and things like that. No relief at all from the sun. And the water's real shallow a lot of times. That really breaks my heart because think about how hard that is for you to go out and garden when it's that hot outside. And you don't even want to be in your pool that's, you know, quote, bath water, but they're living in that, you know, 365 days a year. So I generally say don't put fish in these little ones, but if you have a larger one, like the one I showed you earlier, 50 to 60 gallons, yes, you can put some fish in there. But I also kept mine in primary in a shady location for the comfort of the fish. Okay. So this is a fish here, gambusia. It's also just called mosquito fish. And I recently found out that the city of Fort Worth gave these out to help combat the mosquito issue. Because, you know, we don't want West Niles and stuff going around. These fish are excellent at eating mosquitoes, their eggs, you know, when they deposit it into the water. So keep that in mind. Maybe get a larger container, maybe keep it in a more shady location so you're not being cruel. Never ever add koi. You guys know those huge goldfish. Please don't put those in a little container. That's completely cruel. This is not what that is for. No fish at all. Maybe just some of these gambusia or mosquito fish, or maybe even just some of those, you know, those little cheapy comet goldfish that you can buy. But guys, even those can get big. They can get 10, 12 inches long over time if they have a good environment. So do keep that in mind, please. Containers and water can get so hot in the summertime. Talked about that. If you do put in fish, I highly recommend you use a fountain and filter. It's the right thing to do. A lot of people don't, but it is the right thing to do. Remember, they're living in that environment. So you want a filter to keep things clean for them, or do more frequent water changes for them. Clean monthly at a minimum. You know, for that one unit that I showed earlier, I had a full filtration system, the fountain, everything going, and I cleaned it out if I was being lazy at least once a month. And I would just, you know, get the filter and actually clean it out with the water in the container. You really don't want to use chlorinated city water to rinse things out because it'll actually kill off the beneficial bacteria that's accumulated on your filter medium. Those of you who've had fish tanks and stuff know exactly what I'm talking about. Not that it's really going to hurt anything if you've got a good bacterial balance in your container for your fish, and that does happen over time. But do keep that in mind because you do want to keep a lot of beneficial bacteria going in the water for the safety of your fish. Use an aquarium siphon or pond siphon to vacuum out the muck if you don't have a drainage hole. If you do add fish, you do need to add dechlorinator to city tap water to remove chlorine and chloramines, because if you just put fresh water from your hose right into your container and then put fish in, you will kill your fish. You have to remove the chlorine. You can allow your basin or your water container, water pond to run for about a month. And most of the chlorine will dissipate on its own, but I would still, if you're adding fish, buy dechlorinator. You can buy it anywhere, a big box, pet store, big grocery stores, online. It's readily available. All right, so this is just if you want to add some fish. This is the right thing to do so that they don't suffer. Mosquito control. A lot of you guys have seen this, those round mosquito dunk donut looking things. It's basically the same as what's on top. I like to buy it in granule form, and any brand is good. I'm not pushing this brand. It's basically just Bacillus thuringiensis, BT for short. It's just a harmless bacteria that kills mosquito larvae. Okay, it's a biological mosquito control. It lasts 30 days, so you do have to replenish it every 30 days, but who doesn't have time for that? All you have to do is just like you're sprinkling salt and pepper on your food, just put some more in your container pond, good to go for another 30 days. Use it in any standing water. You can put it in your bird baths, your pollinator waters, anywhere. It won't hurt them, okay? It's only gonna kill the maggot form, the larva, okay? Mention that. Okay, it kills mosquito larvae instantly and for up to 30 days. I mentioned that earlier. It's even labeled for organic gardening, so you don't have to worry about it. If your dog goes out there, my dog used to try to drink out of the little containers, never hurt them. It's pet safe, bird safe, even fish safe. Just simply add it to water. So let me mention the ones on top, in the bag like that, they're granules. So it kind of looks like, grape nut cereal or maybe bird food. It kind of looks like that. So I like that better than having to break up these little round shaped donut looking things. And it goes a lot further, I feel like. I also like to just kind of add it into my potted plants that are kind of in the shade, where sometimes you'll see some mosquitoes buzzing around, because mosquitoes will actually deposit eggs in moist soil too, not just water. So here's some inspiration and examples of what you can do at home. Hopefully you'll be like, hey, I want to do that in my backyard or front yard. So let's get started here. Now, this isn't my favorite type, but some people like it. They're just fountain kits that you can buy if you're not very creative. Here's a 2-tiered one, and you can see it has a little electrical cords because it has a pump that keeps the water flowing. Here's a 3-tiered one, if you like that look. And again, you can put some pond plants in there. Here's a more modern fountain kit if you like that style. A faux whiskey barrel. Now this one's not a real one, so it's going to leak. So you have to buy one of those liners to put in here. That's a plastic liner that you add inside to make it watertight. Real whiskey and wine barrels are usually leak proof because remember, they held whiskey and wine. So, but do test before you start filling it up. But I love how they've added an assortment of different plants here. And we'll talk about those plants, what they are and how you should position them, how you should arrange them in your container. Again, just a recap, wide and shallow shape is easiest to display your plants because you have more real estate, really, left to right, the length. You've got more versus having just a little 1 foot wide container that's maybe taller. So I would go with something that's shaped like this versus something else. Round metal trough. I just love the way these look. I think they're great. They're beautiful. What else can I say? Some people don't like the metal look, but I do like these. Here's some more inspiration. Can get very creative. As long as it's not a leaky container, you can use it. There's also a lot of manufacturers out there that create containers like this on the left. They're kind of like I can't remember what the material is called, but you know the city trash cans that are real durable, real thick. It's basically that type of material. So it very, very durable. I like this a lot. I think that's really pretty. It's a shame they didn't put any plants in it, but just a beautiful, clean look. You can landscape around it, let birds come and visit. Oval trough, and you can see that there is a cord right here for a filter. Some little bitty ones if you'd like to just kind of test it out and see if it's your thing or not. Okay. And here is that one that I showed you earlier that you can actually kind of see where I sealed it. It's not that visible, but notice how it kind of looks darker on the inside where you didn't really see that. I thought it was like an ugly color once I put the epoxy on, but it looked beautiful. Again, I've got some water lilies in here, but they hardly ever bloomed because I gave up the blooms to put this more in the shade so I can put some little comet goldfish in there. I had these 3 little comet goldfish in there. Now, this plant, when I had a koi pond back in the day, it bloomed profusely. It does appreciate fertilizer to generate those blooms. It takes a lot of energy, but you'll have pink blooms, yellow blooms, white blooms, all kinds of different beautiful lilies out there. This plant over here on the left is called pennywort. That's a pretty little plant to have. This is parrot's feather. And note how it kind of trailed on the side. It would just continue growing, kind of like a carpet or a spiller in your plants. And this is just papyrus up here. Now, everything here would have grown way better had I put it in full sun, right? But again, because of the desire to have fish, I didn't want to be cruel to them. So I put this underneath a covered patio. But it still looked great and I loved it. And I did have a little trickling fountain. It didn't go up very high, maybe about 2 inches above the water surface. It was very light. I turned it off to take this picture. Otherwise, you couldn't really see the fish. So this is something that you can do too. Here are some more examples of different things that people have done. I like this one because there's like a little visitor here, a little frog. I don't know if you can see it. Okay, these are those container ponds that you can buy. They're great. They are a little pricey, so you can get creative using other materials, but I do love these. They're a very desirable shape because you can put a lot of plants in it. It's wide, kind of shallow. It works great. And they've used a lot of rocks in here to keep the plants upright. If you put your container in a windy area, sometimes the plants can get knocked over. So it's a good idea to weigh them down. I'll show you how to properly plant your plants to give them more weight also so that they're less likely to fall over. Here's another one that's kind of a newly planted one. There's a teeny tiny one. This one's called umbrella plant or umbrella palm. It's kind of that small when you divide it, when it's a fresh division. It will get pretty wide after some time. And we've got some little lilies in there, water lilies. This plant right here, you cannot buy here. And it's very invasive. It's called water lettuce. So please don't even go looking for it. I have seen it on for sale online and it's prohibited here in Texas. And I'll show you some pictures of why, even though it's a lovely plant to have in certain areas of the country where it's not invasive, it is invasive here. It's invasive in Florida. So please do not try to buy that plant. It's a floating plant. And what's great about it, I'll tell you that much, is it filters the water. It pulls a lot of the nutrients out of the water and depletes algae, but it multiplies. It's so prolific. I read some articles on it that said that it can actually double its size in 1 week, meaning like it's throwing off new rosettes, new babies through its root system. So very, very invasive plant. Just be careful. It's got its advantages, but it's just not for our area. There's a little lotus, beautiful lotus. See, this is a glazed pot. See how it's got that shiny exterior? But don't always trust those because they could have a little hairline crack or something like that. So you may still need to epoxy or line seal the inside before you get started. I would still do that for any pot if it's concrete, terracotta, etc. Here's another beautiful one. I wish this was mine. It's not. I love it so much. This, I just think it's beautiful. It's got a trough, a metal trough. I labeled the plants. This is black taro, water lotus. These bloom. Pickerel weed, or also called pickerel rush, and also some pond lilies. Just beautiful. I just love it. So serene, beautiful. So let's talk about the specific aquatic plants that you can put into these container water gardens. Let's first talk about the 4 types of aquatic plants. Remember we talked about the bricks and even the upside down milk crate that you can put into your basin to elevate those plants? Well, they all have different needs. Here are some shoreline plants, I'm sorry. These emergent plants are more like what you know as bog plants, okay? They need a lot of water. They kind of like it a little mucky and moist. And then we've got some floating plants here and then totally submerged plants. See how all of this plant is underwater? I know the leaves are sticking out like water lilies and such, but these are considered submerged plants. So they're going to go in the deepest part of your container. So dwarf umbrella grass. This one can be very prolific. When I had a pond, I planted this kind of in the stream area from the water what am I trying to say? The waterfall area. And it rooted everywhere. It was almost impossible to completely pull up. So I learned my lesson back in the day, keep these plants in pots so that you can easily remove them, divide them, move on, just replant them every year. So that's what I did. So I quit planting plants just directly in the gravel of my ponds. But in your container garden, you will have little potted plants that you just sink into the water. And we'll talk more about that later. But make sure you buy dwarf umbrella grass because the regular sized one of these can get as tall as a grown man. They can get a little too big. If that's what you want and you have a huge, maybe trough water garden, that might be for you. But usually in a container pond, we're not going to want anything that humongous. Part sun to shade is what it wants. This dwarf one only grows 2 to 4 feet tall and wide. The water depth, okay, up to 4 inches above the root crown. Okay, so if you're looking at the potted plant, the root crown, up to 4 inches above it. You don't want it too deep because actually that wouldn't be good for the plant. It needs to be, the green area needs to be more on top of the water versus below it. Water clover, sun to shade. It's a real short, like a mat. Okay. Dwarf parrot feather. I love this one. This is the one that kind of grows and it can kind of trail over your container. It takes some time, but it's just so beautiful. And it slowly replicates itself. So you only need to start with a few sprigs, and you can end up with more to share with friends and family. Water lilies. I love these. You can also buy these in dry root form. You can buy them online from different producers and stick them in your water and kind of reconstitute them. And they're just beautiful. They do perform better if they're in full sun, as I said here, part sun to full sun, minimum of 4 hours. They need a lot of sun and the addition of fertilizer to really give you the most bang for your buck. If you want to show off your water lilies, you really should fertilize them. We'll talk more about that later, but make sure to purchase hardy water lilies. It's a perennial. The tropical ones, remember we talked about that one week here that we have a true winter where it'll kill off anything tropical. That's why we don't want the tropical ones. They're not cold tolerant. So if you don't want to bring all of this in, which who would want to really, Make sure you buy hardy only because those will come back year after year. And they'll spread in their little container where you pull them out, divide them, got more plants. It's wonderful. Water lotus, another option you can have here. They kind of look like water lilies, but notice that the leaves are suspended up in the air and not at the water level, unlike the water lilies. You can buy these in seed form too and start them that way. Just make sure you damage the seed coating a little bit before you plant these for better germination. Anacharis. This is a good one. This is a completely submerged plant. It's a good aerator for your water. It's a good filter for a natural filter. It helps control algae because it competes for nutrients. If you have too many nutrients, as I mentioned earlier, and those nutrients have nowhere to go, that's when algae gets out of control and it continues to grow and spread and multiply. And then you're like, oh, I've got too much algae now. What do I do? And then the algae can actually deplete the oxygen and nutrients for your desirable plants. So like I said earlier, there is a balance underwater. So this is a great plant to have to keep in your pond. Pickerel rush or pickerel weed. Part sun, part shade to full sun. Gets somewhat tall. Submerge the container underwater. It's not picky. Note I didn't say 2 inches underwater. It's not picky. Just put it in the water and allow it to grow. Additional pond-friendly plants. A lot of people know you don't know, but you can put irises and cannas in there too. Just don't put them in too deep. Potting and dividing your plants. You can go out and buy these special pots with all the little holes in it. You can use your regular potted, your black pots too, that you have your ground plants, that you bought your ground plants in. Either way, you can do this or do this. I've used both, no issues at all. Maintenance and fertilizing. See how this pot has gravel on top? That's how you want to finish every plant because you don't want a lot of that dirt leaching into the water and making a big muddy mess. It helps to keep all the soil down and keeps it nice and neat. Use plain topsoil when you pot your plants. Remember I told you this is a water lily? You can buy these in dry root form. You can order them online or whatnot. You need to get some soil to plant them in. It's just like a potted plant, except you're putting it down into the water. So use plain topsoil and then top with pea gravel on top. I would put at least 1 inch of pea gravel on top just to keep it all neat and also to provide more weight so that it doesn't get knocked over. Do not use potting soil. Let me repeat, do not use potting soil. The reason is a lot of potting soil has cocoa coir, peat moss and such, and that stuff will just float. What a mess once you put that into your container pond. So only use top soil for your pond plants, please. If needed, use a pond plant fertilizer tablet. It doesn't have to be just for ponds, but make sure if you are using a different brand that's not labeled for pond use, that you check with the manufacturer to make sure it is fish safe. Like if you have the mosquito fish in your pond, because some of them can be toxic to fish. What I do is I'll just grab a couple of fertilizer tablets with chopsticks. You can use anything you want, but I just grab it with chopsticks and I work it down into the soil and then release it. This seems to be an easy way. Another way you can do it is just poke your hole into the soil, move the gravel away, poke your hole a couple inches down and deposit your fertilizer tablet in there and then close it back up. Usually, okay, depends on which plant you get, but usually like with the lilies and such, about once a month is what they're going to want to give you the best show of flowers. You don't have to. It's just, it just more flowers for you if you do fertilize. Use old water from your containers to water your other plants, especially if you've got your mosquito fish in there. Remember they're pooping and things in there. So that's kind of fertilizer water is what I call it. So I use that when I do water changes. I'll just get a big old container and I'll water my plants with it. and then I'll replace it with fresh water that's been dechlorinated, treated for chlorine. Top off the water level as needed. This is something that you have to take care of. If you're gone for months and months, you might come back and see that half the water is gone in the summertime because of evaporation. So you do have to top it off at least once a week to really maintain it on a good level. Remove yellow leaves and spent flowers as needed, just like you do in your garden. Clean out the filters and sponges monthly, water rinse only. Never ever use soap, especially if you've got your mosquito fish, because soap is very toxic to fish. It will kill them. So never ever put soap in your containers. Just scrub them out and rinse with water. If you have a plant, maybe somebody shared it with you, you don't really know what it is, but it's an aquatic plant, you can go to Texas A&M's website, aquaplant.tamu.edu, and click on Identify a Plant. And there's a huge list there of all the plants to help you identify what you have. This webpage is mainly meant for people with big ponds, like on acres, but it's very, very beneficial for identifying your plants that you can plant in your own. The website will also give you aquatic plant nurseries. You can also look online. So many different vendors that sell aquatic plants now. And there's actually quite a few just in Dallas, Fort Worth. We are going to email you this PDF at the end of this presentation showing you the beneficial native aquatic plants of Texas. So all of these here, if you can find them, are great for your pond. There's even a native lotus that you can purchase. Arrowhead. Here's that pickerel weed that I mentioned earlier. And there's a few more. This is cut off. Here are the harmful ones, okay? The non-native aquatic weeds in Texas. You don't want to purchase these. I have seen them for sale at certain places that are not as reputable. Please don't support this. The water hyacinth, the water lettuce, although they are so beautiful and so tempting, they do a lot of damage to our natural waterways, and we don't want that here. Like the zebra mussels have wreaked havoc. We don't want to bring in these plants and ruin our lakes and streams here. So please be wary of that. Don't be tempted. Please research this before you start buying any aquatic plant. So this is that plant, water lettuce, that's on that invasive list. It's so cute. It looks so pretty, but look what it does. It clogs up streams. It depletes all the oxygen for our native plants. It creates too much shade and shades out our desirable native plants in lakes and streams. So this is why we want to avoid that. It's become a nuisance in Florida. We don't want this to happen here in our area. So please be educated on that and do the right thing. That is the end of our presentation. So if you guys have any questions, hopefully I've helped inspire you and got you started on how to put one together. Whether you have a pot with a hole in it, now you know how to plug it up. Now you know how to seal it, what products to look for that are safe. You've looked at some of the more popular plants that you can add to your water garden. So does anybody have any questions?
Loretta, we have one question thus
Yes.
far. Do ponds tend to attract snakes?
I can't say no to that because I have never seen one when I had my pond. I had it for about 12 years. But of course, wildlife is attracted to water. I did see frogs. I did see toads. So with that, I'm sure that comes too. But I don't have a pond here at my house. Uh, Not a pond, but container ponds. But in the front yard, I actually found a snake skin that was 6 feet long, and I don't have any kind of water in the front yard. So snakes can be anywhere. I definitely would not do this because of it. But if you've got just a little basin or something that's elevated off the ground, I wouldn't worry about it, honestly. But nature is out there, so I can't say it won't happen.
All righty. Here come the questions. Question 2. Are water lilies true lilies and toxic to cats, or are they safe?
Oh, that's a great question. And I don't know. I don't know if they're toxic or not. I know that my Boston Terrier, she's passed on now from old age, but she used to, hover over my container pond and try to get the fish. She was never fast enough, but she would kind of, nip at my plants. Nothing ever happened with that, but you'll have to do your research on that. I can't tell you for sure if it is or not.
Excellent. All right, here's one. Mosquito fish tend to overpopulate from my experience. This is the person who
Yes.
asked the question. What do you do with the overpopulation of fish?
Yes, that is so true. And I'm so glad you asked that because I forgot to mention this, but um, we definitely don't want to dump any of those fish in our water. Okay. Never ever dump unwanted fish in a lake or flush it down the toilet. That's so cruel. I don't know why people even do that. Um, Honestly, if you have too much of a food source, they're going to overpopulate. But those fish are notoriously, they're known to overpopulate. So I would just say maybe cut down on feeding, share some with your local pet store, sell them online if you can. But yes, that is a problem. I do agree. You'll start out with four, and then at the end of the year, you'll have over 100 fish to deal with, but they are small. They only, I believe it's the female gets larger and her max size will be about 2.8 inches. The males are smaller in size. But yes, that is an issue and a very valid question.
All right. Jan has one. She's had ponds, or he or she has had ponds for 20 years, and
Mhm.
have seen one very small snake. So I
Mhm.
doubt container gardens would attract them.
What's her question?
More of a comment.
Oh,
It's just
comment. Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like
There's no guarantee. I wish I didn't have that snake skin in my front yard. It caught me by surprise. So I know he or she's around, but my husband doesn't think it's a venomous snake, but it was 6 feet long. It's nature, but hopefully we won't see any of that.
yeah. My belief is a snake is a snake.
Yeah, some people hate them. I don't mind them. I like the non-venomous ones because they help, with the toad population and mice and all that. There's a nice balance.
Balance of life. Got a lot of thank yous coming in.
Thank you.
I don't see any more questions. Uh,
Okay.
Dick, you want me to turn this over to you, sir?
Um, yeah, that is all. I don't see any questions either.
All righty.
The evaluation form is available in the chat, so if you would like to complete that, we'll give you time to do that. And if you have any questions that you wanted to answer in person, you could just raise your hand and you can be unmuted and ask any questions that you have.
Yeah, and also keep in mind, if you think of a question after we log off, please give us a call, 817-884-1944, or email us. And you can mention that you watched this and you thought of a question, and I'll be happy to uh, reply back to your email, or we will return your call. So it doesn't end with this presentation if you guys have any questions.
Thank you, Loretta. You did a wonderful job as usual.
Oh, thank
Very
you so
much.
much. Thank you, everybody.